What is she doing now?
The more people come on board, it's exponential. The growth of our spiritual evolution is exponential. And the higher the frequency, the more the darkness, even the thought of war can never again materialize because there isn't the frequency for that to actually occur. And if we just knew that one little thing, we would be so much further ahead than we are. And the more people know, the better. No matter how crazy we sound, they can just take it in and maybe normalize it within themselves and not talk to anyone about it for a while until they realize, oh, you know about that too? Oh, you know about that too? Oh, let's get together on Saturday night and talk.
That's the juicy stuff right there.
Okay, so hi, Louise, Constantine, how are you? And
Jane,
welcome.
Jane, I'm so excited. I'm not even letting you get the first sentence out
Okay, so today we're starting the new series.
of podcasts. Yes. And I think that we're going to do this as organically, as unscripted, as we can allow our teeny tiny little egos to deal with.
And it basically the overall picture is creating the true earth.
Creating the true earth and somehow trying to define that. What does that actually look like? What does it mean in terms of everyday living at this time on the planet? And so, I opened your podcast a while ago. No, the Substack, I mean, bringing true earth resonance. And so I was looking at it and looking at the painting and going, I'd like Jane to talk about that painting in connection to true earth resonance, and let's see where that goes.
Woman is holding a ball of energy and
Yes.
helping to bring in the new earth.
Yes.
But first, before we bring in the new earth, we have to future ourselves. Where do we begin? And also, if people are here right now
Yeah.
seeking more meaning to life,
Yeah.
then they wouldn't be here right now if they weren't. So let's start with futuring the new you.
Okay, so can I ask you a few questions? Because as we've been preparing for this over the last week, I've had all these questions drop in about remembering things that came into my awareness as a child. So, questions that would pop in about, well, who wrote the textbooks? Why are they an authority? There seemed to be so much information that didn't fit into what my being resonated with. And I think that's possibly connected to futuring the new you. Like, who were we and who are we now?
Well, we could go right back to the very, very beginning when the human angelics were first seeded, but I would jump rather to when they were seeded on Earth, and we were the 12 tribes, the
Okay.
12 original tribes known as indigos and angelic humans. That's who we were. And as you would imagine, an angelic human wouldn't be someone who would go to war or try to propagandize or try to indoctrinate the masses so that they could control them. And so, what we need to realize first and foremost is that every single thing that we have learned and know about this earth needs to be put on a shelf somewhere. And then we need to turn and open up our minds to a whole new way of thinking before we even take the first little teeny tiny baby step toward creating the new earth. Because
Oh.
everything so far was to control us.
So is that when you refer to the indoctrination, I guess that's the piece that my little tiny soul was connecting to as a child in school. It felt to me like some of the books that we were learning from felt more like indoctrination than truth.
Well, you were right on as a little girl. You knew that. You were remembering. You were born with that information, and the truth somewhere in your DNA hides all the answers. And so, as a little girl, you were tapping into that. And
Okay.
until finally they take you to academia, which I like to call academia, because it's about the great forgetting. So that
So what is it that we're forgetting? Tell me more about when you say indoctrination, spell that out for me. What does that look like for anybody who's interested in going, well, I don't know. What do you mean, indoctrination? I've never been indoctrinated.
Well, we tend to think that because we like the feeling of thinking that we know everything, we studied hard, we worked hard to get our so-called degree. It's just a degree of how much they can own you for their own agenda and put you to work for their own agenda.
Oh, that's so funny you say that. Let me just interrupt you there because my son used to say to me, Mom, you got a degree. And I was like, yeah, I learned how to jump through flaming hoops.
So you've got your degree, so you've been fully indoctrinated into the system as far as they want you to be. They
Yeah.
don't, they like just like psychology and therapy and psychiatry and all of that, when you go for help, you just become redirected into being a good little student of our adversaries. Now, who are our adversaries? Well, it goes all the way back again to the fallen angels, those who from heaven did fall to earth, and the descendants of those fallen angels. And we can go into that in more detail if you like, but the whole idea going down the line, all those thousands and thousands and thousands of years, was these people had fallen and they were no longer connected to prime creator source. And so they needed something to feed off. And so they constructed everything you see around you and the way the world is today and has become today, what it is today, in order to feed off our energy, our creative currency, to feed themselves, because abundance only comes from prime creator source to which they are not connected. And basically, today, these are human hybrids that serve these greater masters who seem to be invisible. And
Okay.
they're invisible to us because they don't want to be known, because they want you to think that you're ruled basically by the white man. The white man colonialized everything. The white man took over the world, and that's who they would like to blame.
Well, I asked for organic and it just started raining. So I'm going to move inside.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring you with me. Keep
Say,
talking. I'm
where
just,
do we begin? Let's start there. You begin where you are right now with all the tools that you have now. No need to go out and buy anything.
no.
Our spiritual evolution is not an external exercise, relying on anything outside of ourselves. It's an internal journey between you and this great source, this prime creator source, God, whatever you want to call it. As long as you can connect to that, you will have spiritual evolution. And then the obvious steps everyone knows is meditation and deep breathing, because your breath and your deep breathing cycles are connected with the earth and the earth rhythms, which overrides the moon control grid. And then the part about the meditation, we've been told that we have to empty, empty, empty your mind. So there's nothing there. But it's actually, you have to go through your thoughts and decide which ones you want to keep and which ones are serving you, because your thoughts are unique to you. So the ones that draw you in, go there and expound upon those. And maybe you can ask your higher selves to guide you and use your meditation for constructive thinking. You don't have to stop thinking. You know what I mean?
Yes. So when you say connect to your higher self, I think I know what that feels like to me. How do you know when you're connected to your higher self?
Because I get information that comes in and gives me direction. And you don't just have your higher self, you have your oversoul to your oversoul, you have your avatar at the highest point, and your higher self. So you can go at any level, and we have many, many of us in many different forms around us. But I'm not going to go into that right now because it's just way too much. What I would like to go into is the fact that we need to go into our creation currency. That's what we're looking for to make the biggest step. Okay, our creation currency, we're born with it. I called it a currency because it is the most valuable thing on earth. And our adversaries know this, and
Mm,
they try to tell us that it's gold or silver or platinum because that's what they're investing. They're investing in our creation currency to get their agenda on earth accomplished, which is no less than full spectrum dominance. So once you know that, you start reining yourself in and deciding where you want to put your creative energies and your creation energies. And that would be away from that old 3D system connected to time, and it would be toward, which, and this is what I call futuring. You're working in the now to establish a beautiful future to come for humanity and all the angelic humans who don't love war and big pharma and disease and all of these things that we're absolutely capable of leaving behind us in 3D completely and never going back into that existence of fear and anxiety and stress. We know now we can leave that paradigm if we find the courage and if we can find the passion, our passion, whatever we're drawn to, gives you clues. And as a child, whenever you ask why, those are your clues to the map of your soul. But when you
yeah.
become an adult, whatever your passions are, if you move toward them, that's authenticating self. You love flowers, go work in a flower shop or grow flowers. And you'll find that the universe has ways of supporting you in doing that because the design of the universe is also to consciously evolve. And if people are becoming sovereign and authentic beings, it will support that because it also wants us to move out of this dark death cult place that we've been in for so long that says, well, I guess, we need to go to war in Iraq, this kind of thinking. And we see a beautiful future for our children and so many things that come with that. But I'll take a break there and I'll see what you have to say about that.
Well, I'm looking at this time in my life and looking at what are my options to create and where am I creating from? And I love music and I love color and I mean, I'm not an artist like you, but I love to paint. One of the conclusions that I've drawn is that the more energy I commit to creating, and I love to create food. I'm a foodie. And so I get really creative at Louisifying things. And so my sense is that the more time we spend creating, then the more we're putting into the field the opportunities for others to see that option to create. What do you think about that?
The first thing I'd like to address is you said, well, I'm not an artist like you. First thing is stop comparing yourself to somebody else.
Yes.
Get all that out of the way. And of course, you're not an artist like me because you are you. So your art is going to be your unique signature from within, from your soul,
Yeah.
and you are going to express that. And when you touched on food, I
Okay.
feel like that was amazing because it's one of the steps. One of the steps is being creative in every area of your life. So instead of slopping some porridge in a bowl and shoving it underneath somebody's face, you take the time, you place your avocados just so, and it matches the palette of whatever it is that's dished up on your plate. A few red cherry tomatoes, and make it into a piece of art. Make your room a piece of art. Change your wardrobe into something that everybody turns and goes, "What?" Because this is all aesthetically improving everywhere we look. So many people walk around in black and gray, and we've got square gray buildings and square everything's straight lines and angles everywhere we look. So we really have to up the aesthetics all around us because that's our immediate environment. Your bedroom, your kitchen, or wherever you are can always be made more beautiful, and especially with nature. So that's the first thing, because what happens with that, say you do that, you start doing that, your neurons start firing up and they remember what creating feels like and being creative feels like. But when you do art in particular, I mean, piano and music and singing and dancing, they're all beautiful. But what happens with art, I'm sure it may happen with some of those other things too, but you get so focused and so lost in that creation, there's almost like a shift, and you are directly connected to cosmic wisdom. And it's as if Creator is working through you into your heart and out from your hands or your hand, or if it's a sculpture, your whole body. So that's the sweet spot, the secret place, which you could say almost mimics a meditation, a very, very deep, deep meditation. And so what happens is your mind suddenly opens up to that, and then you get information and downloads and ideas, and you're painting, and that, oh, that must be yellow, and this should be that. And you stand back and you look at what you've done, and in excitement, not as a critic, like, I don't like that, and that's wrong. And even if it is wrong, you say that, you'll just wait for it to dry and paint over it. It's very simple.
That's what I love about painting. There are no mistakes.
Yep.
It's funny that you talk about that flow and getting into that space where I forget I'm actually cooking. And I'll use food because I'm really conscious of what I put in my body, the frequency of what I'm putting in my body. And I'm lucky here where we live, we get a lot of organic food that's grown by local farmers and that's pretty darn clean. And so I get all this joy when I go to the farmer's market and I'm seeing like the fresh greens, and right now it's the spring onions and all these foods that are available. So I get this joy that bubbles up inside me. And then those are my treasures, and I take them and I put them on display on my counter and I go, wow. Look at the bounty, the beauty of that, the color of that. Okay, now, so then in about 4 o'clock in the morning, I get this directive that says, "Oh, you can make this with that." And then the spices start to drop in, and I get pretty excited about, I can just imagine what that's going to taste like.
That's exactly what we need to be doing. But
Mm.
remember, that's just a step. So if
Mhm.
you took that process
Yeah.
to its zenith point,
Okay.
you would be looking at a Nikola Tesla, because now they've moved beyond the fruits and vegetables, they've moved beyond the decoration and interior design. They've moved beyond all of that. They've moved beyond their canvas, their colors, their paint, whatever it is they use, their piano if they sing. And they've moved into another realm altogether where they know how to take the ether and the energy, the electromagnetic energies of the universe, and play with them like Tesla did with his Tesla coil. getting free energy from the universe. And that was the greatest service to mankind, humankind, whatever what you want to call it. And it wasn't service to self, it was service to others because JP Morgan had not come along and blown up his beautiful Tesla tower and defunded him. He had been funding him. And the reason he didn't fund him was obviously because he couldn't monetize it for JP Morgan. But the key thing here is that JP Morgan was one of those human hybrids that wanted to control the planet for their own good, purely selfish, feeding off the energy of the earth, our beautiful Mother Earth. So because Tesla couldn't monetize it, he defunded Tesla, kicked him out. He died old and sad and lonely, or maybe not too lonely, who knows. But what he was giving to the earth over 100 years ago, we could have had this since then, was that when you aren't working to pay those energy bills, you are free to be absolutely 100% creative. So all of your energy goes toward being creative and loving. There's no stress. There's no disease because there's no stress. There's no deadlines. There's no end of the month. There's nothing like that. You're just floating in a place of love and creativity. And this is where we want to be when we finally arrive at the true earth, which some people call the new earth, but I like true earth.
Earth, the true earth. So when you're talking about the true earth and futuring the new you, how do we apply what you just said to our lives right now when the ether has been taken over, shall we say?
You
And
know,
where do we go? My understanding is that we go by rivers and lakes and mountains and the forest to recapture what was the true ether, the real, what was supporting us. What say you?
yes, there's still a lot of damage that's been done to even just our beautiful nature and Mother Earth herself. But we need to know right now and right here that as long as we bring up our frequencies and we have a heightened resonance, this takes away the energy from the darkness and the dark side. So even if terrible things happen, we have to surmount them and lift ourselves up, like almost minute by minute, second by second at this point. But there are so many people coming on board. Wherever you look now online, people are talking about this. They're talking about frequency, raising frequency. They're talking about the ethers. They're talking about how they tried to build this web of chemtrails and clouds above us to keep the ether out. And so that would keep our connection to Prime Creator Source away and its connection to Earth when you go outside and stand barefoot on the ground. It's not boots on the ground, it's bare feet on the ground. So that
Oh,
you're connected all the way through to the ether, into the earth, and the earth grids too. All the earth grids have been meddled with and fiddled with, and they need to be fixed as well. So the first thing, if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, first inform yourself about the illusion because 3D that you live in now, or maybe you're in 4D by now, is based on time and control. So we have to take the time to do the research and inform ourselves of our false history, our false science, and our false psychology, and everything else connected to that. And I have a Substack where I go through all of these things. I outline what we've come from. We need to know what we came from in order to never repeat those mistakes again and to build our new earth and know what we've been through and pat ourselves on the back for still being alive, even after the onslaughts and the assaults that the angelic humans have had and suffered through.
you took the words away from my conclusion because I was just about to say anybody watching this who is curious should go to Jane Evershed's Substack and read all the pieces that she's written and see all the artwork attached to that because you will be really well informed by reading that Substack. So thank you, Jane. This is what I look forward to is having these types of conversations with people so that I can um, learn more, experience more, and then share more. And it just satisfies my nature to dig into those pieces that are kind of, they're hard to put vocabulary to. Until recently, I didn't have the vocabulary to express the things that you talk about, or some of the other authors talk about. It's like, I wish that I had had these words so that
Well,
I could understand.
yeah, don't worry, Louise, because soon you won't even need the words, but you'll find the words were all just spells, and we're going to be able to communicate telepathically because as our DNA upgrades, all our other cognitive clairvoyance, they
Mhm.
come back online with the upgrading of our DNA. So I just want to say that I never had a chance to explain what our galactic history was, but next
Oh,
time we talk, I'll
yes.
bring that in so that people know what my reference point is for saying all this with such confidence is
Thank you.
because I've found our galactic history. So we'll leave it at that then. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Jane.
So I think that your place here is an advocate for people who haven't delved as deeply as maybe you or I have.
It's being able to just explore all those pieces without worrying about what anybody thinks or being judged or sounding crazy.
That's the part where you become your authentic self. You cannot worry about what anyone else thinks. That's it.
I look forward to the next time we have a chance to do this and explore our galactic history.
Okay.
Ciao, Bella.
Goodbye.